What is the purpose of our existence? Is there a preordained path we are destined to follow, or are we free to shape our own destiny? Welcome to a profound journey into existentialism, a philosophy born from the depths of human inquiry. This philosophical tradition emphasizes our individual existence, freedom, and our capacity to choose. It's a philosophy that dares to ask bold questions like, are we the authors of our own lives, or are we simply tossed on the waves of circumstance? Central to existentialism is the belief that life is not a predetermined script, but a blank page where we are the ones holding the pen. It underscores the importance of personal responsibility, authenticity, and the freedom to choose our own path. Existentialism invites us to contemplate these profound questions, challenging us to find our own path in a world that often seems devoid of meaning. To engage with existentialism is to confront the raw and often uncomfortable realities of our existence. This philosophy invites us to question the very nature of our being, urging us to consider the implications of a world without inherent meaning. At the heart of existentialism lie the concepts of authenticity and personal responsibility. The existentialist perspective posits that we are not merely passive recipients of life, but active participants shaping our own destinies. By embracing this philosophy, we are encouraged to live authentically, to be true to ourselves, and to reject the societal norms and expectations that can often stifle our individuality. But this freedom to define ourselves comes with a daunting responsibility. For existentialists, the choices we make not only determine our own paths, but also define who we are. The mere act of decision-making becomes a profound expression of our individual existence. This freedom, however, is not without its challenges. It can plunge us into a state of existential anxiety, a deep-rooted fear that stems from the realization of our absolute freedom and the weight of our responsibilities. But it's important to understand that this anxiety is not something to be feared or avoided. Instead, existentialists view it as a catalyst for personal growth. Freedom and choice are the double-edged swords of our existence. On one hand, they empower us to carve out our own paths, to define our own values, and to create meaning in our lives. On the other hand, they expose us to the uncertainties and insecurities that accompany the process of self-definition. This is where the existentialist emphasis on authenticity comes into play. To live authentically is to embrace these uncertainties, to confront them head-on, and to use them as stepping stones on our journey towards self-discovery. It is to acknowledge our anxieties, our fears, and our vulnerabilities, and to make conscious choices in spite of them. Existentialism compels us to face these challenges head-on, empowering us to live authentically and take responsibility for our own lives. It urges us to seize the reins of our existence, to confront the absurdity of life, and to find meaning in the face of meaninglessness. It is a philosophy not of despair but of hope, a beacon of light in the vast expanse of our existence. The existentialist tradition is rich with thinkers who dared to probe the depths of the human experience. Among them, three philosophers stand tall: Søren Kierkegaard, Jean-Paul Sartre, and Albert Camus. Let's start with Kierkegaard, often considered the father of existentialism. He proposed that each individual is responsible for giving meaning to life and living it passionately. Kierkegaard believed that life's truths are subjective and personal, challenging us to embrace our individuality and carve out our own path. Then there's Sartre, a philosopher who left an indelible mark on existentialist thought. He declared, existence precedes essence. To Sartre, we first exist, and it's up to us to shape our essence or purpose. He spoke of radical freedom, suggesting we are condemned to be free, as we alone are responsible for our actions, a concept both liberating and daunting. And finally, we have Albert Camus. He introduced the idea of the absurd, a concept central to existentialism. Camus argued that life is inherently meaningless, and the quest for order and clarity in a world that offers neither is absurd. But rather than leading to despair, Camus saw the absurd as a starting point. It pushes us to rebel, to create our own meaning, to live despite the absurdity. These three giants of existentialism, each with their unique perspectives, contribute to a philosophy that embraces freedom, authenticity, and personal responsibility. They compel us to question, to challenge, to seek out our own answers. They remind us that life is a personal journey, shaped by our choices and the meanings we ascribe. While existentialism may seem bleak at first glance, it is in fact a philosophy of empowerment. It acknowledges the uncertainties and absurdities of life, yet encourages us to take the reins, to live authentically, and to create our own meaning in the face of these challenges. These philosophers challenged us to confront the absurdity of existence, while also illuminating the potential for personal freedom and self-determination. In our complex and rapidly changing world, existentialism's emphasis on personal freedom and responsibility has never been more relevant. This modern world we live in is a whirlwind of information, technologies, and societal norms that seem to be constantly shifting and evolving. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, lost even, amidst this ceaseless flux. But it's precisely in this context that existentialism can be a beacon, offering us a way to navigate the complexities and uncertainties of our lives. Existentialism, with its focus on individual existence, freedom, and choice, is a philosophy for the brave. It challenges us to confront the uncertainties of life head-on, to make our own decisions and to take responsibility for their outcomes. In a world where we are often pressured to conform, to follow the prescribed path, existentialism compels us to question, to reflect, and to choose our own way. But freedom, as existentialists remind us, is a double-edged sword. It offers us the possibility to shape our own lives, but it also confronts us with the daunting reality that we are solely responsible for our choices and their consequences. This can lead to what the existentialists call existential angst, or the burden of freedom. But rather than shying away from this angst, existentialism encourages us to embrace it, to use it as a catalyst for self-discovery and personal growth. Moreover, in a world that often seems devoid of meaning, existentialism empowers us to create our own. It rejects the idea that meaning is something out there waiting to be discovered. Instead, it asserts that meaning is something we create, something we infuse into our own lives. So how can we apply existentialism to our lives in this modern world? It begins with awareness, with recognizing that we are free and responsible individuals. It continues with courage, with embracing the uncertainties of life and making our own choices. And it culminates in authenticity, in living according to our own values, our own beliefs, and our own aspirations. Existentialism encourages us to embrace the uncertainty of our world, empowering us to create our own meaning amidst the chaos. So how can we apply existentialist principles to our own lives? The first step is to acknowledge our freedom, the absolute freedom of choice. This freedom is not to be feared, but to be embraced. It's the freedom to decide who we are, what we value, and how we want to live our lives. Secondly, we should strive for authenticity. Authenticity is about being true to ourselves, about living in accordance with our own values and beliefs, even when they diverge from societal norms or expectations. It's about acknowledging our own uniqueness and embracing it. But authenticity is not just about self-expression, it's also about responsibility. As existentialists, we believe that we are the authors of our own lives. We are responsible for our actions, for our choices, and for the consequences of those choices. This is a heavy burden, but it's also liberating. It means that we are not just passive recipients of life, we are active participants. Let's not forget about the absurd. Existentialism teaches us that life can often seem meaningless, absurd even. But this doesn't mean that life is devoid of value or purpose. On the contrary, it means that we are free to create our own meaning, to define our own purpose. Thus, creating a meaningful life is not about finding some pre-existing universal purpose. It's about creating our own purpose, our own meaning. It's about choosing the values that matter to us, the goals that inspire us, and the relationships that enrich us. So, take some time to reflect on your life. What are your values? What are your dreams, your aspirations? What kind of person do you want to be? What kind of life do you want to live? And remember, these are not just theoretical questions. They are practical, existential questions. They are questions about how to live, how to act, how to be. Remember, you have the power to create meaning in your own life. Embrace your freedom, make conscious choices, and live authentically.